Really thrilled to be back here for another installment of our Create Smarter guest interview segment. This week, I am joined by Chris Antonowich. He's a local business owner of a couple different things, including Antonowich Consulting Collaborative and a bunch of other things that we'll get into this conversation talking about. But Chris, thanks so much for coming on the show and welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, of course. Chris, we know each other, I guess, through the Boston music scene, but you're a man about town. You're kind of a multi-talented marketer and creator, and I guess we can get right into it. Sort of your main gig these days, you run your own marketing firm or boutique. Would you like to sort of tell us a little bit about that and how that all came to be?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been in the greater creative services industry for 20 years. I've been client side, I've been agency side. Prior to ACC, I ran small agencies previously. I started ACC, it's hard to believe, but it's 5 years as of February. So we're celebrating our 5-year anniversary. ACC is me and a lot of strategic partners. So, you spend 20 years in any industry, you meet a lot of good, great, talented, capable, creative folks who are also working on their own. So, a lot of times whether it's, corporate or nonprofit or university, etc., type of client that I'm working with, usually they'll be interfacing with me, but then I'll bring in strategic partners for either video capabilities, content, website design, copywriting, design, art direction, etc. So, it's kind of me as the point person. The analogy I like to use, I know 5 Tool Productions is all about sports analogies, so I got a good one for you guys.
Oh, yeah?
I consider myself to be the point guard, and I dish to the person who is open and is best in position to score the basket for my clients. So,
all right. That's, kind of mixing our sports metaphors here.
They are. It's not baseball. It's not baseball.
Not baseball. We've been known to mess around with some football here as well, but we can go with a basketball analogy.
I'm sticking with basketball. That's the only one I have. I'm tapped out of creative resources to come up with another one. So I'm going to stay with it.
Fair enough. And I guess obviously at ACC, I imagine one of the big unifying kind of features that unites all of the work that you do is that obviously it's work done by you, Chris. You're the one making the work. But beyond that, is there any kind of general ethos you like to bring to the ACC work across, client to client, sort of a ACC guarantee, if you may?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I appreciate that. I think I had this epiphany like 5 years ago or so. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm a professional liar. Like I'm a professional liar for a living. We don't call it lying in marketing. We tell like storytelling, finding the narrative, finding the slant, but it's just fancy ways of saying like you're lying. 99 out of 100 times, like you're promising something that's not quite like on par with what the, person you're talking to is expecting. So I think like there's a big piece in the industry of like actually making peace with that, where it's just like, hey, like, am I a professional BSer? It's like to a certain degree, yeah, it's like I am. I'm good at it, and there's a lot of people who are good at it. And I think to a large degree, our society is driven by people like me. But that doesn't mean like you have to, abandon all your ethos and like just take any project that comes through, right? So, and a lot of times I like to think, just because I can do this skill set doesn't mean, I apply it to causes and organizations that I don't necessarily agree with, or I might have like, ideological, philosophical disagreements with. So with that in mind, I do a lot of work for nonprofits, for universities. Obviously, I got to supplement that a little bit because budgets are always high. So I do have some corporate clients. But I don't take on like the quote unquote sell your soul clients. I think I did a little bit earlier in my career. And it's actually not good for them either. It's for them to hire somebody like me. It's like if I can't fundamentally get behind what I'm doing, or if I feel like I'm causing a little bit, contributing to the greater ill as opposed to the greater good, I'm going to cut bait on something like that, and have. So I feel like, with marketing, it's just like any other industry. It's just like you can kind of pick and choose. And that's not that like the industry in and of itself is evil or what I'm doing, or I am a bad person. It's just that like I've got a particular skill set that can help, the partners make money. It's just like I'm going to pick and choose which partners I'm actually going to work with. So I think that's kind of a snapshot of how I operate.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense. Obviously, you can't work with, in a perfect world, we'd all work with nonprofits and our favorite clients, but obviously it's just about doing the most with what you can.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. So is you can't like you could specialize in nonprofits and like do, and there's folks who do. You know what I mean? And to be clear, it's not that nonprofits are the be all end all either. There's plenty of problems within nonprofits. So I'm going to dive into it right now, but it's just like you do the best you can with what you can. You assess each situation, and like I said, at the end of the day, it's like if I can, my true north is like if I'm generally helping the greater good, and I'm speaking as honestly as I can right now, like I am with you about what I do and how it operates, then I'm doing my job. So
there we go. And I guess speaking of doing your job in terms of the actual services you provide as ACC, I know we talked a little bit about the project you did with HitTracks, and I believe on your site you say you kind of worked with them from script to screen on that project. So for the folks at home, I'd love if you can just sort of explain what that was and how it came to be.
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked about HitTracks. One of our most exciting clients and coolest technologies we've ever worked with. It's a motion capture technology for baseball and softball. So for example, if you're in a batting cage, pitch comes in, you hit it, instantaneously you're getting a readout on a monitor right there about how far the ball went, what was the likely outcome of the hit, was it a single, was it a double, was it a foul ball, etc. Was it an out? Records all this information, and then over time, like you work with the tool, and get better and better and get more efficient with your swing. If you're a batter primarily, or also has a feature for catchers, etc., various positions. Really cool tool. When we were working with them a few years ago, it's a hard product to showcase how it works. But if you go to hittracksbaseball.com, I think they own various URLs now, but HitTracks Baseball is one I know they have. And maybe they even bought hittracks.com. You'll see various videos that we produced that in slow motion capture exactly how the product works. So from a batting perspective, from a trainer's perspective, from a team and gameplay perspective, that's something I didn't touch on right now, that there's a remote gaming capability for the technology. It's super cool. They're great people as well. I've had a chance to work with them over the years. So yeah, it's to your question of like, what do we do? It's like, well, when you're doing something, let's just say like a video that doesn't have a script proper, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have a script. You actually need to like write out what the actions are going to have, then move on to what we call a storyboard, where you're actually drawing it out, like how this video is going to play out. To showcase the action of the product, or at least showcase the things that you want to show, within 5 to 7 seconds of a video that's going to be featured on a website and also on YouTube, etc. So yeah, it's my job to be as efficient as possible with storytelling, not just with actual words, but with visuals as well. And then deliver a product in this case where anybody's watching it from any discipline, maybe not even know anything about the game of baseball, and fundamentally understand what the product does. And I think the videos that we produce for their website definitely do that. And their business has skyrocketed over the last 4 years. And we're psyched to see their growth. And again, really happy to be working with them.
Yeah, that's great. I know with some of our clients, we've been producing some explainer videos recently. And I think, obviously maybe that's sort of what all marketing boils down to, is just an explainer video, but having videos kind of targeted towards that sort of channel of like, want to pin something down that obviously, I'm sure you could spend hours looking at a hit tracks manual and trying to figure out exactly everything that's going on there. But if you can make a couple minutes of a video that's, clean and looks cool and helps folks at home understand what they're looking at, that's sort of more than half the battle right there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's visual storytelling, and those who can do it well, there's an old saying in the industry where it's just like, if I had more time, I would have written less. Um, and I feel like that obviously applies to writing, but it also applies to video as well, where it's like, if a standard, format, let's just say, is 30 seconds, was to ask yourself, well, can we actually tell this story in 10 seconds? Can we tell it in 12 seconds? And if we can, we probably should, because it's like, if we can get more efficient, and tell our things quicker, then, let's do it. And of course, obviously, like, greater at large pictures, attention spans are shortening anyway. People are expecting, instant gratification on everything. For better or worse. I'm not making a judgment. I'm just saying, like, things are just, the way of, TikTok is just like, make it quick, make it snappy, and tell a story very efficiently. And so I think, the ones who can do that, are the ones who are going to stay employed and, keep making those how-tos and instructional videos.
And then kind of stepping away from the video side of things, I'm also pretty curious about your one campaign you did with Boston Stands with Immigrants. I believe that was more of a kind of out there in the real world, and then of course getting some news coverage, kind of how everything worked out. But in your own words, how would you describe the work you did with that campaign?
Yeah, I was really I was proud of the campaign, and to a certain degree I still am. On a larger scale, it's like sad that we have to do anything like this, and this has to be said, but to a large degree, I think many of us figured out what's really going on, that we might have been blind to over the last 5 years or so. And so it's like, okay, this is a reality. And it was an immediate response. If we think back to like 2017, not that I want to, but like there's the travel ban, and immediately, again, at that point, being in the creative services for 15 plus years, I was thinking, like, we got to create a public campaign for awareness, that supports immigrants, tells their stories, is for the public at large, to not just give into a narrative of hate and misinformation and exploitation. Let's actually create something beautiful and public, and educate people. So we did I partnered with a local photographer, and we did what's called projection mapping on public buildings. The first few without any kind of license or any permission whatsoever, and then from there, actually partnered with the Edward M. Kennedy Institute, and the city of Boston, got a little bit of budget to actually do some really, nice outdoor projections and photography. And then, after we did like all these iconic spots in Boston's that were, quite literally faces of immigrants from different backgrounds all around the world were projected onto these iconic spots. We took high-res photography of it, and then it became an installation in a museum. It became a museum exhibit for 6 months or so at the Edward M. Kennedy Institute. Had a big launch party, and part celebration, but also, like part acknowledgement that, again, like I said, unfortunately, this kind of work has to be done, and this kind of education has to be done, because we're not where we want to be as a country and as a society right now. So I'm happy about it. It also, on a personal level, it exposed a lot of ugly underbelly of, like, people in my community, or just in a greater community. I had a lot of folks I had no idea. They're like searching like keywords and stuff like that, and hit you up with a lot of hate speech and like that kind of stuff. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because I'm completely unaware to like how toxic things can be online, and like you do something like for the greater good, and you start to get this backlash, and you're just thinking like, all right, I'm some white dude with privilege that has like capabilities to make this campaign. I'm like, I can only imagine, like, this is just a small taste of what like people of color actually face and like the racism and hatred they actually face. So I think like on a personal level, it was important for me to kind of understand that, and feel like that energy and like acknowledge like, okay, this is a thing that exists in society. And unfortunately, it's not going away anytime soon, but it kind of, helps me plant my roots and be ready for that storm and fight against it and do what I can, again, to help keep up in the greater good.
Definitely, yeah. Thanks for that. And I think we always talk to our clients about repurposing your content, reposting your content. Obviously, a museum exhibition is a little more permanent and not quite just, oh, distribute media. That's not the end goal, but as a way to kind of extend the campaign and immortalize the campaign, that must have been really cool, sort of taking it out of the sides of buildings and into a president or senator institute.
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, and it's really cool to think the primary audience that's coming through that museum is elementary and middle school kid tour groups. So like to have an exhibit like that in a place like that that's mostly talking to young people, that's a source of pride. That's where you want to be. And honestly, it was not the goal that we started off with. Like we just started. I don't even know what the goal was. It was just we were just like kind of outraged and just like, let's just do this. And then it turned into something. There was no greater plan, And sometimes you just got to do things just from the heart and then just let the universe take it where it needs to go. And that's the case where that happens. So pretty psyched where it netted out in the end.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of doing things from the heart, not only with your work with ACC, you're kind of a business to business owner. You're a business facing business, but you've also in the past year or two launched a public facing business, or maybe two. I think you're in the basement right now of Light of Day Records inside a Monumental Market in Jamaica Plain. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm in a storage room right now because we're actually, there's a crew working upstairs. So apologies for any noise that might be coming through in the background or the lackluster visuals, but it's for a good reason because Monumental Market is a record store, baked goods and coffee shop in one. We are at 36 South Street, Jamaica Plain. Yeah, we're doing well. We opened up about 6 weeks before the pandemic hit. So we're almost at our 2-year anniversary. And it's kind of amazing that we've survived this long, but we're starting to get at a spot where we're starting to thrive and feel really good about things. And to your point, kicking the tires on potential growth, opening up another location. We'll see how things net out and shake out over the next year or so. But just that we're here, it feels really good. I am a musician. I am a music lover, both creating music and listening to music. I do feel, despite being in advertising and greater creative services for 20 years, I feel like at my core, I am a musician. That is who I am. I do work in creative services mostly to make money and to supplement, work for Light of Day Records. But we are getting to a point where it's, it's getting more and more serious business, and we're psyched about that. So I feel like there's a good combination of both worlds right now. In my mind, are very well connected, but maybe on the surface for some might seem a little disconnected. But in my head, they fit well together.
Oh, I bet. I imagine, a lot of the work you're doing in one is pretty transferable, or perhaps the lessons. One thing I'd like to talk a little more about is sort of the social media promotion and marketing that you do for the record store and record label. I know we've talked a little bit off the air just about how you've been using TikTok and how that's really been pretty helpful for your business.
Yeah, TikTok's really skyrocketed both our online sales, and we've got a decent amount of people who come into the store and say like, "Hey, we love your TikTok videos." I have a producer. Now I'm like on our second producer. It's so crazy. We've only been doing this for like 2.5 months, but we're already on our second TikTok producer. Our first one moved to Los Angeles. But we've gone popular enough, we can just like put it out there like, hey, we need another producer to help with these videos. And within a couple of days, we, have, qualified applicants, which is pretty cool. But yeah, we've the cool thing about TikTok, what I was saying earlier about storytelling, is it allows you to tell a story about your topic of choice or your focus of choice very quickly. In our case, record collecting or new releases or vintage releases or cliches within, you know, the record collecting community. It allows us to take things that are trending, like whether it be sounds, clips, you know, etc., and apply them to the record world, which has been really great for us, just for building an audience and building followers, and like I said, both sales online and in person, and then sharing that, mirroring that content on both Instagram and Facebook. So we've been pretty psyched about it.
Yeah, and that's sort of that whole process there is pretty similar to what we do at Five Tool. Obviously, we're not selling records, but our social media manager, Marissa, is kind of the office queen of TikToks, gets us to be in a bunch. And one thing, it always surprises us, maybe you feel the same way, it's kind of the surefire hits, the ideas you think are going to blow up TikTok. That isn't always the case. Sometimes it's kind of the random sort of weird joke. Maybe it's the audio that you're using in the TikTok that really gets it in front of some eyeballs. But the algorithm seems kind of seemingly like as random as it's ever been, right?
Yeah, I definitely feel it's a random algorithm. I am sure there's a rhyme and reason to it, and I'm sure
Random, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure, but what I find is it gives you just enough to keep you engaged. I'd say even more so than Instagram, for sure. I mean, like, you know, whether it's like totally legit or not, I don't know, but it's kind of like the you know, lottery, you know, winning on a slot machine. You know what I mean? Like, where it's just like, you know, you find a slot machine that makes you win just enough to keep going. I feel like, you know, the TikTok algorithm is kind of similar, where it's just like, you know, 1 in 10, you know, starts to blow up a little bit, and it gets you like all excited and everything, and then like it dies down, but then you're like, maybe I should give it up, and then like another one hits. So I feel like it's kind of got that model. I'm not complaining about that. Like I'm at peace for like what that is. But ultimately, you know, I look at it as like, you're not trying to hit on single thing. You're just trying to weave a narrative over time, you know, and I think the tool is awesome for that. Like, it's really cool to show like what's happening with the store, what's happening with your stock, you know, how people are reacting. Like, you can, you know, how you feel about things. It's cool. It's, you know, if somebody's checking out your entire channel over the course of a year or so, it's like they can, you know, follow your story. So that's how I'm trying to look at it, as opposed to, you know, hit on every single one. In fact, we just shot a bunch today that are just simple. It's like, just show the records for Valentine's Day, you know, with little hearts around them. It's like, we don't have to get like super creative and crazy for everything. Sometimes, you know, like in advertising, like for cars, like there's this old saying, is it's like, just show the effing car, you know, if like for car videos, for car commercials. There's so many like car commercials that like try to get heady and like get creative, and it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, just show the car. You know what I mean? Just show it from many angles. And sometimes like we subscribe to that with record collecting. It's like, just take pictures of records and show them. Like, you don't have to do something crazy. And, you know, finding that marriage of, you know, what's kind of creative and fun, and you know, is like next level, you know, content creation versus just keeping it simple is where we like to play.
And lastly, Chris, we do ask this for every guest. So before we end this interview, I wanted to ask you, how do you create smarter?
How do I create smarter? I create smarter by trying to do less.
There you go. Simple answer and a simple way to create smarter. Thank you so much, Chris. Really appreciate you taking time out to talk with us, all things content creation, marketing, advertising, you name it, here on the Create Smarter show. Chris is the principal at Antonowich Consulting Collaborative. He is also the owner at Monumental Market / Light of Day Records.